Courage and honor, cousin.
Into the fires of battle, unto the anvil of war.
Hello, and welcome to Warhammer 40k's Grim History from Beyond. I'm Zekthar,
And I'm Muxin.
and we are the chroniclers of all that was, and all that will be in the 41st millennium. We've seen the rise and fall of many empires, and this month we'll be discussing the elite of the elite, those guys in gold, the Adeptus Custodes.
That's right, Zekthar, and this week we'll be concluding our thoughts on the Custodes, as well as going over their strange hierarchy. But remember, if you guys like these boxes on 40k lore, you can support our channel by becoming a member on our YouTube channel. And more recently, you can purchase my brother's book, The Odin Heist. Just click on the hyperlink or type in the title in the description wherever you get your books. I can't wait to get my hands on the paperback when it comes out.
Guess what, Yuxin?
What?
By the time this Vox airs on Turn 42, it will be available in paperback.
Outstanding.
Indeed. So, if you're like me and enjoy the feel of a real book, go ahead and click on one of the hyperlinks and get your paperback copy today, starting at $19.99. Or you can get the digital copy at $5.99.
Right. But let's get into our final thoughts on the Custodes, shall we?
Certainly. And what better time to answer a few questions about them from our listeners?
Like who?
Well, our first question comes from Nathan T. And he asks, do you think Valdor still lurks the galaxy and that he will come back to the Emperor in the Imperium's greatest time of need? Or when the Emperor awakens and calls him back?
From what we know, our assumption is that if he isn't the Yellow King, there's some connection between him.
The King in Yellow.
Oh, sorry, the King in Yellow. There may be some sort of connection between him and the one, which would lead us to believe that, yes, he is still around somewhere. Whether or not he will come back to the Emperor, well, if it was in time of need, you would assume that would have been pretty recently.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a couple theories kicking around anyways that I've read at least about. One is obviously anyways that the most standard one is that he is the King in Yellow. He's looking for the Emperor's true name so that he can kill him, so that he can be reborn anyways as the Soul Child, the new Emperor. And then Valdor would assign all of the army that he is gathering to said Emperor, and he could usher him in anyways as the new Emperor of mankind. That is kind of the biggest one that I've heard. I mean, there's also a very good chance anyways that the King in Yellow isn't Constantine. I mean, yeah. He could be just somewhere else. Constantine could be Cypher. He could be Cypher.
He could be dead for all we know.
Yeah, he could be dead too. I do kind of like the idea, though, of him being Cypher. So that whole concept, remember, anyways, where he's about to draw his guns when the Custodes are like, we're going to take your weapons because Gillen told us to. And there's that half second where he thinks about it. Kind of makes sense if he's actually Valdor, because Valdor, the only guy there, anyways, that really is a concern to Valdor is Gilliman. Fighting-wise. Everybody else can cut through him like Swiss cheese.
The problem with that would be is Cypher is supposed to be roughly the size of a Space Marine, and Valdor is not the size of a Space Marine.
Well, maybe he found, like a gadget. It makes him look smaller. It makes him look like a Space Marine. And quite frankly, anyways, they don't actually say, anyways, that Cypher's like this giant Space Marine. He looks like he's of an average size. And I'm not saying that Constantine is Cypher. I'm just saying, anyways, he very well could be. But getting back to your question, anyways, if Constantine is still around, I do think, anyways, that he will show up eventually to help the Imperium. or at the very, he'll help the emperor. I don't know if the really on his list. It's really more the emperor.
Yeah.
So I do think, anyways, that he will make a reappearance because it's just him disappearing, and technically, we'll kind of go into this anyways. Custodes are kind of immortal, so they're not like Space Marines. And Space Marines, as we've talked about so many times, anyways, they do age, but it's really, really slow. Custodes, it seems like, are just pretty much immortal. But yeah, to know for absolutely sure, anyways, I don't got anything there. But I mean, like I said, I could hypothesize, just like Euxin did there. But I think both of us would agree, anyways, that he is going to make a reappearance, right?
Yeah,
I think we can both agree, also, anyways, that he's not dead. He's floating around somewhere.
It's like we find out later that he died in a ditch. How?
No, that's something, anyways, that happened to John Grammaticus. It didn't happen to Constantine.
It's like, no, cool. That's who killed him. That's their out would be on who killed him.
It's John
Grammaticus.
God, that'd be terrible. God, that'd be horrible. We found that out. But thank you, Nathan, anyways, for the question. We've got one more, anyways, by our newest member, Dig Pig.
Sup, Dig Pig? Just a heads up, Snotrock patched up his bud Blagrot, and they should be joining us in the upcoming month.
Great. I honestly thought we got rid of those guys. Anywho, his question was, given that the Primarchs contain a distilled portion of the Emperor's personality or traits, the Custodes seem to contain the Emperor's complete contempt for humanity, personal attachment, or familiar bonds. Is this by design or a byproduct of function over all other considerations? I think this is actually kind of an interesting question, but what do you think, Euxin?
Well, the fact that the personality and traits of the Emperor having complete contempt for humanity, them having that sort of attitude makes him kind of more of one, right? From what you would think.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what Dig Pig is actually asking. Are they dicks because the Big E is a dick? I mean, to boil it down, I mean, yeah, okay, so we got to back up a little bit here. I don't even know if really I would consider the Emperor a dick, actually. That's somebody, anyways, that knows, anyways, that they're doing something, anyways, that's going to irritate other people, and they do it just in spite of it.
So, like, for example, putting a demon in somebody's body and saying, run down the hall.
No, that was absolutely, anyways, logically the step that needed to be taken there. If you have no humanity, I think, anyways, the biggest problem with the Emperor is that he's lost his humanity. There's a difference. Being a dick is just like, we're going to stuff you into this guy that's been following me for the last 1,000 years, and then we're going to kick him down to the webway. As opposed to what really happened, which was just like, well, this is the logical step anyways to take place. Well, hasn't he followed you and been your friend for the last 1,000 years? I guess, but this
we don't even know if he was a friend.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, well, he's been around me this entire time. That is the biggest problem with the Emperor. Like I said, I don't think he's really a dick. I mean, we joke about it all the time, but I think it's really more along the lines, anyways, that he's lost his humanity. Somewhere along the lines, he's just lost it. So he just doesn't care about humanity,
I guess, because there was the whole bending of knee of the entire Word Bearers Legion.
The whole humanity aspect of it, what I mean by he's lost his humanity, is also, anyways, I mean, he's still trying to put humanity, anyways, in a position of power. He wants humanity to succeed. But the aspect of, like what makes actually humanity cool and important and interesting to people like us historians, he doesn't care about that. That is just gone. The emotional aspect of humanity, it's just gone. He doesn't care. Now, so the question is that did he put that into the Custodes? I think he did, but I don't think he did it on purpose. And what I mean by that is that it's more along the lines of, instead of just like trying to plug in emotions or even eliminate them, it was just kind of the aspect of, we want this to be as close to a machine as possible without it being a machine.
Right.
Which, I mean, for you Custodes fans, I hate to say that, but I think that's really honestly what he did. And the disdain that they have for humanity isn't because they don't like you. It's because they think of them as being inferior. It's just like, why? And so they have this dual aspect, anyways. Of one is that they have to follow the Emperor no matter what he says and what they do. They trust the Emperor. They will follow him no matter what. And the Emperor, for all of his faults and greatness anyways, wants humanity to come with him wherever he is going. That's their problem. They're just like, why are we taking this gene stock with us? Or dirt?
Yeah.
It'd be kind of like if you went from planet to planet to planet, and the guy that you were following kept picking up rocks. And by the end, anyways, his spaceship was so heavy it could barely get off the planet. And like, we could just dump some of these rocks. He goes, no, we can't do that. That's what we've been doing this whole thing for. But it's a rock. I mean, that's kind of the way that I've always kind of pictured the Custodes. I mean, you've got a few anyways that have really tried, like for instance, Constantine really tried to like branch out a little bit, see humanity more as than just, like I said, dirt or gene stock. Well, you said dirt actually last week, but same difference. So I don't necessarily think anyways that so to answer your question, Dick Pig, I think it's really, like I said anyways, I don't think it's because the Emperor is a dick. I think it's just, I think he was just trying to put all these genetical stuff in key, and just all that anyways just literally pushed out the humanity anyways in the Custodes. That's my thought. But do you really think anyways that it was actually his own personality that got shoved in there?
Well,
it was just like, I hate feelings, screw humanity kind of thing that got plugged into the Custodes because that's the Emperor.
A little bit. Not necessarily a lot, but a little bit, yes.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll have to disagree on that, but it's an interesting question. Go on.
It's not so much of, I just look at as for the viewpoint of, yes, he wants to bring humanity with him, but he really does have this sort of, he doesn't have personal attachments. He doesn't feel personal attachments, really.
The closest I would say he had is probably Malcador.
Yeah. That's...
And Valdor, but Valdor is very much, anyways, more of a sounding board than anything else, in my opinion. Malcador, on the other hand, seemed like if the Emperor had a friend, it was probably Malcador. Let's put it that way. And he still shoved him onto the golden throne, and then he died. So maybe not a good thing being a friend of the Emperor, but.
And then there was Horus, but.
Horus, anyways, I think he had some familiarity with, but that was a different relationship too. I think that was very much more father-son aspect than friend. But yeah, I just
those few bonds is just like, it's like everything else is just whatever. Yeah. Yes, I want to bring humanity up to a higher thing, but in reality, I'm so much better than them. Is what I'm seeing more of. I should be leading this because of how much higher I am.
I'm not a god, but you must follow me like a god. I mean that's the whole hypocrisy of the Emperor, which is just a lot of times it's incredibly frustrating. It's the concept, like you said, anyways. You've said so many times, I'm not a god, but I'm going to use godlike powers. Or I'm not a god. It's still one of my favorite. It's just a recent video that just surfaced. Anyways, I remember him painting this, and it's like, I'm not a god, but the painting that I have, I'm literally holding the solar system in my golden hands as humanity spreads across the galaxy. It's like, dude, that is what a god would do. Don't, yeah.
Or the whole, I don't want you to spread me like a religion, and yet he shows up literally on Lorgar's planet and lets them have a
Mhm.
feast and worshiping him as a deity.
Or the fact that I was just actually so I just released at the time of this recording, anyways, I've released on Spotify the Taladus Wars. There are times, anyways, in the 42nd millennium where people of faith in the Emperor and its faith in him as a god, he helps them like a god would. So it's like,
So yeah.
So you can draw whatever conclusion you want. I mean, but the hypocrisy behind the Emperor, to me, anyways, is an interesting thought process, and we might do a little short on that at some point. But we do have to continue moving on. Thank you guys for the questions. But what do you got for us to start for us, anyways, Yuxin?
Well, so last week I talked about the highest rank there is amongst the Adeptus Custodes.
Captain General, right?
Yes. Well, immediately below the absolute authority of the Captain General were the 2 tribunes, the senior members of the Custodian Tribunate, a senior cadre of 10 veteran custodians forming the Adeptus Custodes Council of War and Policy, who acted as advisors to the Captain General. This body has the incomparable privilege of providing their service as counsel to the Emperor himself, should he so desire it. And in the matters of the security of the Imperial Palace's inner sanctums and the person of the Emperor, no higher authority exists. Membership of this body changes periodically to ensure a blend of established wisdom and fresh ideas. A custodian must have earned at least 10 names before he can serve on the tribunate, and have led his comrades victoriously in battle on at least 3 occasions. Once he joins the tribunate, a custodian must serve for at least 10 Terran years. During this time, he will not see the front lines, for he is too busy bending all of his considerable intellect to supporting, strategically and diplomatically, the Captain General. Below the ruling council can be found the Custodian Prefectorate and the Shield Captains. The distinction between the two, not apparent entirely to outsiders, is one perhaps of seniority and function. With the title of Prefect accorded as a reward of veterancy and favor in service by the Emperor, while the rank of Shield Captain indicates an active field command over a particular detachment or deployment of the Custodes. These 2 ranks fulfill the roles of inspiring leaders, gifted generals, and selfless champions. Their titles vary from Supreme Castellans and Aquila Commanders to Master Guardians, often born in accordance with the specific duties to which they have been assigned. It is Shield Captains that take charge of the Adeptus Custodes military engagements. One is typically afforded overall command of an operation, while several others of his rank may lend him their strength and wisdom in a supporting capacity. The warriors of the Adeptus Custodes are a department of the Adeptus Terra, the Imperial government, but its members are answerable only to the Emperor and their own leaders. The Custodes' nerve center and headquarters is the Tower of Hegemon, within the Imperial Palace, while a small elite of 300 Custodes, known as the Companions, form the Emperor's personal bodyguard and never leave his side. Although the Legio Custodes originally numbered 10,000, approximately 5 Terran years into the war within the Webway, during the Horus Heresy, they had been reduced to around only 1,000 custodians due to the incessant warfare against the entities of the war. However, by the late 41st millennium, the Adeptus Custodes had rebuilt their original strength of 10,000 warriors.
I got a question for you real quick. Pardon me, Yuxin, but did it take them 10,000 years to get back up to that strength because it's so hard to make a custode? Or is it just they didn't care? Because they're just on Terra. They didn't care.
maybe they didn't have as much urgency, but they may still have thought we need to at least get back up to maximum capacity.
The reason I ask is because now that they're like going all over the place and fighting all sorts of different wars, that means that there's going to be quite a few more casualties.
Oh, yes.
So if it really did take them that long to make 10,000 of these guys, then the Adeptus Custodes won't be around for very much longer.
Well, 300 of them will.
I mean,
They're
because
getting around.
you're looking at, anyways, at that point, anyways, a 1-1 ratio, anyways, or one made every 1,000 years. So, yeah. Are they at this point, anyways? I guess here's my question. At this point, anyways, now that there's a little bit more of an urgency, are they trying to get past 10,000? Are they trying to actually become Legion?
My guess is they're trying to at least keep up with what they think will be the war of attrition of. So I think that they're probably aiming for the same sort of system as the Space Marines, where it's like, yeah, technically we're supposed to only have 1,000, but we generally have more than that because we have our scouts.
Yeah, and the
other
concept
people.
that you're going to lose some. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of overflow process. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Below these ranks, the custodians seem to be peers, as in the manner of a warrior caste or aristocracy, rather than links in the more familiar hierarchical chain of command found elsewhere in the Imperium's armed forces. Their functional titles adapt to their chosen role and panoply of war in whichever commands they have been included, with the following broad distinctions applied in the communication with external forces on a tactical level. Their titles drawn from various ancient historical Terran sources. The remainder of the custodians possess roughly equivalent status to one another, forming loose warrior bands traditionally known as sodalities, aka squads. There are various strategic roles within the organization to which some custodians find themselves better suited. However, whether this be rapid jet bike troops or Virtus Praetors, the heavy assault specialists of the Laris Custodians, or the unwavering Custodian Wardens, they still operate within a meritocracy that sees them afforded whatever honor their comrades believe them worthy of.
Yuxin,
Yeah.
we might have made a mistake. Remember a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the siege of Cathonia? The siege of Cathonia. That's where Horus is from, right?
Cathonia?
Yeah. And we talked about 3 soda guys that were there.
Yeah, I thought we might have said that there was like 20.
I originally thought that we kind of came up with the concept of there was like a squad, but then I think I kept reading and I misinterpreted something from our tomes, and I think I concluded that it was more like 300. In which case, anyways, if I did, I'm sorry. The soda guys or the sodalites or
sodalities.
Thank you. That's more like a squad. So it's more like, anyways, if you picked up like a 12-pack of soda from your Turn 42 grocery store, and every one of them got 1. There you go. That's how you can remember, anyways, what they are. They are the soda guys. Sorry, I digress.
What
For
about
those
the
of
mini?
you who thought that I meant 100, I did, and I was wrong. My apologies. But continue, sir. What if you get a bunch of squads or soda guys together? They get a keg.
The singular force of the Adeptus Custodes is referred to as a shield company.
Oh, okay.
The numbers within such a formation can vary considerably, handpicked by their shield captain for the task at hand, and ranging from a small band to a sizable army, complete with jet bikes, tanks, and dreadnoughts. Under normal circumstances, a shield company includes no more than 1 shield captain and perhaps 30 to 40 custodians, led by a captain commander and their conclaves of shield captains, and boasting tens, sometimes hundreds of custodians. Shield hosts have the martial strength to crush enemy armies and bring entire star systems to heel. The gathering of such might is a momentous undertaking. Shield Host is only assembled to accomplish those tasks that no other Imperial military force could be trusted with. And its warriors march to war with a singular and implacable determination to enact the Emperor's will. Now, how about you tell us about the chambers, Sekdar?
Certainly. Well, all of these ranks are developed into different styles and tactics known as chambers. There are technically 8 chambers, and they are called the Companions, the Hykenatoi, the Theranatoi, the Cataphracatoi, the Euphorioi, the Moriatoi, the Decantoi, and the Eyes of the Emperor, which really isn't a chamber so much as a retirement program.
Really? The Custodes have a retirement program? The Starries don't even have that.
Well, they kind of do. Because they are functionally immortal, even the warriors of the Adeptus Custodes eventually tire. Some suffer physical hurts that impact upon their ability to perform their duties, with lost limbs, artificial eyes, or augmetic organs lessening their physical perfection. Others find their mental faculties beginning to erode, however slightly, acknowledging that the reaction times are not quite what they once were. For the vast majority of warriors, a 1/10 of a second reduction in the speed of which blows are struck or parried might be considered negligible. For a custodian, it is an error enough to necessitate that their watch comes to an end. Now, when a custodian judges himself no longer fit for duty, they surrender all of their equipment to the Hall of Armaments and vanish into the void of the galaxy clad in hooded black robes. Such noble exiles still serve the Emperor, however, for wherever they travel, they observe. Some work alone, dark and ominous figures slipping through the shadows of the Emperor's realms. Others cultivate networks of informants and agents, using fear and intimidation to secure compliance where loyalty and honor will not suffice. Should they bear witness to a situation developing that they believe might threaten Terra or the Emperor, these watchers use secret channels to communicate a warning to the Captain General. So do response forces of the Adeptus Custodes launch punitive and often preemptive strikes throughout the Imperium, forewarned of danger by the eyes of the Emperor. But getting back to the chambers, the most famous would be the Companions. The Companions, known in ancient past as the Hatorian Guard, are a 300-strong force that forms the direct bodyguard of the Emperor while he sits upon the Golden Throne. They are handpicked for the duties by the Captain General, who chooses his candidates based upon painstaking assessments of each warrior's performance in training and battle, as well as their mental acuity, spiritual fortitude, and countless other indicative factors. There can be no more important duty in all the Imperium than to shield the Emperor himself. As such, no consideration for rank or veteran status is given when appointing custodians to the Companions, and those passed over in favor of younger or less experienced candidates take no offense. The vigil of the Companions is unending, and though they are, of course, rotated out for brief periods of rest, it is still a purgatorial duty. Arrayed in ranks around the Golden Throne, these wardens stand for incredible lengths of time, unmoving, unspeaking, poised constantly upon the cusp of battle readiness in case the slightest threat were to present itself. It is mentally and spiritually exhausting, even for the demigods of the Adeptus Custodes. And so when the Captain General judges that a companion has served long enough, they will be rotated out with immediate effect, replaced by a fresh inductee to their ranks. Again, this is no mark of dishonor, merely a pragmatic admission that even a custodian cannot perform such a taxing duty indefinitely. The longest any individual has stood the Companion's watch was Astorian Kalos, who endured for a full Terran century before at last surrendering his place amongst the silent ranks. Those who have served amongst the Companions are more likely to lend their talents to the grim bodyguards known as the Aquilian Shields. Such custodians have protected the lives of the greatest and most esteemed personnel in the Imperium, most notably the High Lords of Terra themselves. From the Master of the Navigators Guild to the High Logisticar of the Adeptus Administratum, the Lord Militant of the Imperium to the shadowed Grand Master of the Officio Assassinorum. Former companions have acted as guardians for them all. To the 10,000, such duties are simply an extension of their vows to protect the Emperor. In this case, by safeguarding those assets most important to the successful running of his Imperium. Still, it is a role that has earned the Adeptus Custodes much favor in the eyes of the Terra's noble elite. Now, next up, we have the Hecatonoi caste, which is the main strength of the Custodian Guard, and the majority of its warriors as members of it. They are the bearers of the Guardian Spear, the bodyguard of the Emperor, and the executioner of any who would offer threat or opposition to his will. They are the image of the golden armored warrior that is summoned in fear and awe when the Adeptus Custodes is brought to mind. Their numbers include variations of force, war gear, and panoply, such as the Centennial Guard and the Custodian Guard proper, as well as the elite Hatorian Guard, the most skilled fighters among a force of warriors whose martial skills are already well beyond human. Now, while there are few opponents that the Hecatonoi cannot deal with, they are not a rounded military force in the sense that they are not configured to deal with abnormalities such as siegecraft or attrition warfare that fall outside their purview. However, the Adeptus Custodes still maintains the ability to deploy its forces as heavy shock troops should the needs arise, or indeed to counter a foe that directs overwhelming force against it in high-intensity warfare. These counter-assault forces are known as the Theranatoi and encompass custom-modified suits of Terminator armor, optimized for use by the Custodian's superhuman frame, as well as vastly potent portable firepower, such as carried by the Sagittarium Guard, whose weapons include those few dark relics known as the Adrathic weapons, disintegration beams of phenomenal destructive potential, long gathered to the Emperor's household and entrusted to no other. Now, long before the Emperor's retreat and seclusion on Terra, after the appointment of War Master Horus to command his forces, the principal role of protection and defense the Custodian Guard engaged in was a mobile one. They went wherever their master did, no matter what blasted alien world or lost cityscape of ancient glory he trod. In this, the elements of speed and mobility were paramount to their success, as was reconnaissance and counterstrike in lightning response to threat. Those of the Legio Custodes who specialized in such tactics and means of employing were known as the Cataphractoi. They flew interceptors and gunships of sublime sophistication and power, and piloted a range of repulsor lift-grab vehicles, tanks, transports, and strike skimmers, jet bikes, and interface flyers advanced beyond anything else in the Imperium's arsenal. Now, the sneakiest of the group were the Euphoriae, who were tasked with covert operations, counter-surveillance, and vitally important tasks of simulated attack and infiltration. It was they who tested the Legio Custodes' defenses and preparations just as foes would, as well as conducting their own hidden missions to dispose of potential threats within the Imperium, and enact final and sometimes utterly secret justice as the Emperor's will demanded it. There are those who have posited that where the Euphoriae ended and the powers that controlled the Officio Assassinorum began, at certain junctures, was difficult even for the wisest of the High Lords of Terra to discern. And it is certain when they wished that the assassins of the temples of Terra were the Legio Custodes to command. According to ancient imperial records, and it is clear that the Custodians' participation in the so-called Blood Games, a series of war games in which the Custodes sought to identify all of the possible ways for the Imperial Palace to be infiltrated or assaulted, the Custodians were trained in the arts of assassination, both improvised and professional, in order to counter possible attempts on the life of the Emperor. It was not uncommon for several Custodians to be on detached duty for these Blood Games, so that the Legio Custodes remained vigilant against developing threats to the Emperor's person. Furthermore, it is clear that the Custodes were also well versed in the political etiquette of Terra, and have been known to act outside of imperial law, to infiltrate influential imperial noble houses, and to investigate any potential threats to the rule of the Emperor. This aspect of the Custodian mindset was advantageous, given that the Captain General of the Order often shared a seat upon the War Council, the later Council of Terra, and its direct descendant, the Senatorium Imperialis, which allowed him to navigate the political maneuvering of the Imperium's various organizations while still remaining an awe-inspiring warrior. Now, the smallest and most singular division within the Legio Custodes was the Moriatiae, the honored dead who walked. Just as the Legiones Astartes, it was possible for a custodian guard, ever suffering injury so terrible that even they could not recover from it, but within whom the vital spark of life remained, to be entered into the cybernetic life support sarcophagus of a dreadnought. The first of these was made while the Unification Wars were being fought, in a modified Urgholm pattern dreadnought, the first iteration of its kind intended for use within the Thunder Warriors. And as the number of dreadnought patterns and subtypes within the Imperium's arsenal increased across the Great Crusade's decades of warfare and innovation, so too did the Legio Custodes keep pace with these developments. Though they remained relatively rare, with less than perhaps 100 dreadnoughts of Legio Custodes in service at the time of Magnus the Red's folly, and the subsequent attack on Prospero, they represented a phenomenally powerful concentration of force. Most of their chassis upgraded to the Achilles pattern, a variant of Contemptor dreadnought manufactured with materials and technology far beyond even the vaunted war machines of the Legiones Astartes. Now, last but certainly not least, we have the Dankinatoi, which was a chamber of ancient Legio Custodes that was founded in the final years of the Horus Heresy, unleashed upon the last dregs of Horus's failed rebellion as they fled Terra. These warriors proved a potent weapon for the battered loyalist host. Indeed, even in the long years of strife that followed the dark age of the Horus Heresy, they remained active, hunting traitors and Xenos invaders alike long after the official end of the Great Scouring. Now, I don't know for certain if this last chamber is even still around, and if they are, they do their work on the down low, so as nobody would notice. Well, before we actually get to the elite weapons of the Custodes, what do you think of these chambers and the way that they're actually used? Yuxin?
First, I'd love to know if the Foroi actually still exists. I wonder how much of these chambers actually exist.
Well, if the Euphoria still existed, no one would know. That's their whole point.
I do love, and there will be a picture that you'll have of the Dankina toy, but I love their armor color scheme.
Oh, yeah, it's not gold, it's like black.
It's like black with
dark gray, yeah.
Yeah, it looks really cool and definitely separates their color scheme from pretty much all the others.
Well, the interesting part about them too is just the simple fact, anyways, that I mean, by the way, sorry for you folks, anyways, but everything that I've ever looked up said that the Custodes didn't do anything in the Great Scour. Apparently, they did. It just wasn't. Maybe it's more along the lines, anyways, that like the whole Custodes didn't do anything. Most of them stayed at home, but this particular chamber actually was very relevant during the Great Scourings. I haven't found anything where they actually teamed up with any like Astartes or anything like that, but it sounds like anyways that they kind of went nuts and went out and just started killing.
When I looked into it, it was like basically all of the solar, the Sol system is where they focused.
Right.
They didn't really go outside of that. It was just the Sol system area.
Yeah, it's just interesting anyways that the chambers, and then like it gets really confusing because you got these chambers, right? And these are almost like battle tactics. They remind me anyways of when you talked about the Dark Angels, the what do they call it? The old tactical formations that they used.
Like the circle or something like that.
Yeah, but it was like, was it 8-pointed or was it 6? The hexagram or something like that. Probably not the hexagram because I think that's corn. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about anyways, where they had the different each legion anyways kind of did its own thing. Well, it wasn't even that it was a legion necessarily. It was just that these tactics were followed by these branches. Right. Kind of reminds me of these chambers. The difference though is that these chambers are even looser than that.
Yeah.
So you can have somebody, anyways, that's part of this chamber, one of these chambers, and they could definitely be part of like the Aquilon shield. The only one that I know of that stays uniquely the same all the time is the companions. That job in and of itself, anyways, has always remained the same. The rest of it, anyways, you can be deposited or transported, anyways, to one of these different groups, depending, anyways, on what the Custodes need. In what you were talking about, anyways, like the soda guys or the companies or the hosts. So it's just really weird. It goes back to that whole thing, anyways, about the Custodes where they fight as warriors instead of soldiers. I mean, the whole system is based on that, and it's incredibly frustrating to document, and more importantly than that, anyways, is just it to me, anyways. If somebody really wanted to destroy the Custodes, that's how you would do it. You would just break it down from the inside, and it wouldn't be hard. There's a reason why most military units, anyways, have particular types of regimentation to it.
Yeah.
It's not a you can do what you want. It is a this is the way it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the whole thing, anyways, it got more and more frustrating to read about because it's just like, well, they do kind of have that very much that regimental aspect, but then they just kind of go whee too. So, I don't know. That was kind of my 2 cents. What do you think? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, like when it came to an example of that, the shield hosts versus shield companies, where it's just like, yeah, you can have 10s. It's like, well, a shield company is 30 to 40. That is 10s. To hundreds is like, we have no uniformity at all when it comes to these things.
That's the frustrating part about the Custodes. But why don't we talk about something cool, anyways, about the Custodes? I mean, more importantly, like their weapons. I mean, obviously, anyways, we're going to talk about the Guardian Spear, right? I mean, that's what they're known for.
Indeed. Cool. The signature weapon of the Adeptus Custodes. In many ways, their symbol of office is the Guardian Spear. Elegant and deadly, it is a potent and unique design, incorporating a power blade and a highly advanced integrated bolter weapon. In the hands of Custodian Guard, it can strike and parry at blinding speed despite its size. More rarely, these weapons mount not bolters, but advanced specialized sub-weapons such as compact meltas or even Adrathic disintegration beamers, issued against the deadliest of expected foes. The most beautifully wrought and deadly weapons of the Custodian's arsenal are the Paragon Spears, storied weapons wielded by the most noted shield captains and tribunes among the 10,000. Uniquely enough, a variation of the Guardian Spear is actually wielded by the Deathwatch captain, actually. It's the Vigil Spear, I believe. But anyways, moving on.
So he also looks like a moron. Sorry. I'll get into it when we're done. I'm going to let you finish this.
the gun on the end of a spear?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, they do have other weapons, Zekdar.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, a weapon that's commonly used by the Custodian Wardens, the Castellanax.
Oh, isn't that what Trajan wields?
I believe so.
Pretty sure
These weapons lend themselves to an elegant and brutal combat style that sees the wielder use their exceptional strength in conjunction with their axe's momentum.
I've never heard of anybody saying
elegant,
but so sorry.
Elegant combat style of chopping somebody's head off.
Exactly. It's as elegant as a mace. A large rock at the end of a stick. This rock though happens to be pointy. Sorry. Go ahead.
Launching thunderous sweeps that switch directions with breathtaking suddenness to cleave through their victim's guard and hack off heads and limbs. The wardens can also fire concentrated volleys of bolt fire from the hafts of their weapons, scything down those who attempt to stay out of their blades' devastating reach. What pops in my mind is the Necrons, doesn't it?
Oh.
And their hatchet head bayonets on their gauze weapons.
Yeah, you're talking about the gauze flare. Yeah, this seems to be the exact kind of opposite of the gauze flare. The gauze flare is like shoot first, chop somebody second. This is more the other way around, and both don't make any sense. But do they have any more obtuse weapons that they use?
Well, this one's a little bit less on the obtuse and actually makes more sense.
Okay, what is it?
They are, namely, the Vault Swords. The Vault Sword is a type of Archaeotech power
hang on
sword.
half a second, Yuxin. Are you sure this isn't a sword that's got a gun at the very end of the sword?
No,
it's an actual sword?
Yes.
Like, no, but in the back end of the hilt anyways, there's a gun. Like, oh, jeez.
It's a sword pistol. No.
Yeah. In the pommel, there's a pistol. Great. So this is just a straight up sword.
Yeah.
Is it like a power sword? Or is it... Oh, no. Okay. Go ahead. Tell me, what makes this different then?
A Vault Sword is a type of Archaeotech power sword.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a power sword.
There you go.
That is used by the elite blade champions of the Adeptus Custodes. They can be wielded either as single great swords known as claymores, or paired with slightly smaller Nemesis blade, as the blade champion's chosen martial kata discipline required.
So the guys that use the claymores, they have to face the enemy, right? Face towards enemy. Sorry. Go ahead.
Now, remember how in our last box, the heroes of the legendary Custodes, I mentioned the weapon known as the Misericordia? You know, the thing that...
it's Valerian used it, right?
He
had it.
To...
The Sister Silence. Yeah. What was her name?
Alea.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Now
he gave it to her, right?
Back to... Yes.
All right. Okay, well, what was... So that was a weapon? I thought it was more like a token or like a Vox thing. What is it?
The Misericordia, which in High Gothic means Blade of Mercy, is a blade melee weapon in the form of either a long dagger or a short sword, which means in the hands of a normal person or like Sisters of Battle, it's more of a sword. Sword.
So
people for that aren't 8 feet tall, you know.
Right. So for like a custode, it's like a gladius, or is it even smaller than that?
I would assume it'd be basically gladius. Because gladius is basically a short sword, right?
Gladius is Roman time, anyways. Gladius was kind of a short sword. It was about
maybe
the blade itself, anyways, is probably about 2 feet long.
Okay.
So yeah, it was definitely it was designed anyways to be behind the giant shield, and they would just like stab, you know. So, but for a normal person, anyways, so what you do is you scale this for an 8 foot tall fella. So it's probably about 4 feet long or 3.5 feet long. So for a regular person, that's a decent.
It's a great sword.
Well,
not quite.
Okay, so the way that it works, anyways, for Terra, anyways, for the medieval times, a great sword, technically, anyways, the blade, if you stood the sword up, a great sword, like for instance, a claymore, the Scottish claymore, not the mine claymore, it was the height of a person from the bottom of the pommel to the point of the blade.
Okay.
Remember, that's not the blade. The whole blade wasn't the same size of a person.
Right.
Talking about the sword itself, and I believe, anyways, it was very much the same, anyways, with the German Svenheiner, if I'm pronouncing that right. But that was what a two-handed sword was. A short or a single
You mean
sword.
great sword.
Was, I would assume, anyways, is like half that size. I don't know exactly.
So
I
this
can
would be
look it
more
up.
like a long sword.
Was that?
This would be more like a long sword. So one that really would be meant to be wielded by two hands instead of one. But
Okay, so there were different sizes, anyways. In Terran 42, you had a great sword, then you had a bastard sword, then you had a single-handed sword, and then you had short swords. So, a bastard sword, anyways, it was kind of it was the goofy one, because you could normally use that anyway. The concept was, it was a pommel and a half. Haha, bastard, get it? It's not a full child, but it's almost there. So the concept was, is that
probably where the alternative name of longsword comes in. I'm assuming.
longsword is very much actually more like fantasy genre. Longsword, anyways, was normally, anyways, the definition of, like, for instance, a great sword or a bastard sword. Both of those were considered long swords because they were long, as opposed to short swords. But normally, anyways, when you think of the standard, like, long sword, like when you've seen, like, fantasy or something like that, 9 times out of 10 they're actually showing you, anyways, a very small version of a bastard sword. It's something that you can, the palm or the grip, anyways, is a hand and a half, so you can use it with 2 hands or 1 hand.
Yeah.
So that's what you're saying.
More of what it looked like. I assume.
Sorry, going down the rabbit hole here, Yuxin, but this is, so that's what you're saying. This is kind of, anyways, this is a fantasy, like, longsword or a bastard sword on the smaller variety for a regular person.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Okay,
This is not what it looked like. In fact, there's a picture of.
we will have
Mr.
pictures
Bell,
for you,
actually.
anyways, on YouTube. But what's the significance of it?
Well, it's intended to represent the custodes, that the custodes were beneficiaries of the magisterium lex ultima, which placed them above the reach of the imperial law, save for the commandments of the emperor of mankind himself. Misericordia was designed to deliver a single mortal blow, and despite their symbolic nature, were sometimes used by individual custodians to carry out a death sentence or offer the emperor's peace to a mortally wounded and suffering warrior.
That sounds very much like a gladius. The whole concept for the gladiator, what they're talking about here, anyways, in Roman times, was called a soldier's death. And the aspect was, is that you took the point, anyways, and you drove it right down the middle of the shoulder, and you could get past all the ribs and whatnot, anyways, and plunge it right into the heart. So the concept was, and it was actually designed, anyways, it literally, anyways, is somebody that you have huge respect for, and you're giving them a mercy killing.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be really quick and very simple, and as opposed to, like, for instance, beheading somebody, which, yes, is also quick, but that was also considered very dishonorable, and that way they could kick your head around all over the place. This way, anyways, they were like,
Okay. Or hang it on a pike, or
or yeah, show it anyways in a way that you probably wouldn't want yourself to be shown after you were dead. This, with soldier's death, anyways, it was very much a don't worry, we'll take care of the body. We're not gonna, drag you all the way back to Rome. Kind of thing.
Anyways, not that you will ever.
Really? How would you know? Okay, but does this blade also? I got a question for it, real quick. Does this blade carry? Is it almost like it carries the office of the custodes? So, like him, like Valorian giving it to the sister. What's her name? Arya. Araya.
Yeah.
Alea,
not Araya.
Okay, Alea, anyways. He's literally giving her, anyways, the command of the custode office, so she can, like, show this to somebody, and it's like showing a sign of power. It's like it's like a badge of the custodes.
I think it's more of a she could show this and then show that yeah, she's connected to the Custodes, so you don't want to mess with that person because it's a direct connection. But at the same time, I think it's also just the fact that he is handing over a symbolic item to her.
Right. I mean, it was a huge gift on his part.
Oh, yeah.
I get that. But like for her anyways, if she's on this planet and she needs to go visit like the library, like the secret library of this governor, and the governor's just like, oh, I'm not going to show that to you. And then she waves this sword up. It's literally anyways like the badge of the Custodes, which means that it's beyond even his reach. And he's like, yeah, okay, fine, into the library you go. Kind of thing. Okay. That's pretty cool that he actually gave that to her. It kind of shows kind of the significance of it.
And it kind of leads more into the story about the fact that she said that she would keep it until she found a worthy person to actually use it on.
And he was cool with that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're kind of actually running out of time here anyways. I'm assuming that they've got some others like standard stuff that the Space Marines use, like power gauntlets and talons and whatnot. But do they got anything that's more like interesting, like more, as the orcs would say, shooty? Other than their spears that shoot. Oh, we'll get into that later. Yeah. They got any like ranged weapons?
So the first one out of the two that I'm going to talk about is the Drathic weapons.
Oh yeah, I kind of talked about that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Well, where are they coming from?
Relics of the DAT, or Dark Age of Technology. I'm tempted to just keep calling it DAT from now on.
Nah, you can't do that because no one's going to understand what you say. But anyways, they're from the Dark Age technology.
Yep. Believed to be all but unique to Terra, the Drathic weaponry uses a potent but dangerous unstable energy beam to sever the internal bonds of matter, causing objects caught in their path to unravel in a spectacularly destructive manner, leaving only a flaring afterimage of what was. Such weapons were legend during the Age of Strife, and devastating wars were fought on anarchic old Terra solely over the possession of some unearthed cache of Adrathic weapons and the promise of the power that they held. When the Emperor came to Dominion and ended Old Night on ancient Terra, all Adrathic weapons were given over to him on pain of death, not simply to the one who retains them, but their entire land and nation. Such was the importance he placed on controlling this technology. These weapons have remained in his care ever since, and only his own personal weaponsmiths gained and kept the knowledge of how to replicate them in small numbers, much to the jealousy of mobs.
Pardon me, Euxin, but that sounds vaguely familiar. Does it sound like anything like this anyways? This particular weapon that I'm looking up, it can strip a target down to nothing molecule by molecule, reducing it to its constituent atoms in a matter of seconds. It kind of sounds like what you're talking about, right?
I believe you're talking about the gauze flare, yes?
Well, yes, I am.
The thing that...
The standard infantry weapon of every Necron warrior.
Yeah.
So, I remember back in the day anyways, when we talked about the Necrons, and I asked you if all the Necrons woke up, could they beat the Imperium of Man? And you said, no. Because there are too many humans. I would like to go back to that point at some point. Because I disagree. But we don't have the time to get into that debate today. I just think it's funny anyways that humanity's like dark secret weapon is literally the standard infantry weapon of a Necron warrior.
But and remember how we talked about at the very beginning of this box about the fact that he's lost humanity. It's kind of an example of that, isn't it? Not only will I kill them, I will kill their entire land and nation.
I was thinking more along the lines anyways of where you're going with that anyways, that he'd be a chip off the old block with the Necrons. No personality and doesn't care about his warriors because after all they're just meat shields or robots. Sure, yes.
Welcome to the Sawtech Dynasty. Sorry.
Now that I think about it, yeah, there's a lot of similarity there, isn't there?
Okay, we got time for one more weapon. You got one more?
Yeah. The second ranged weapon is the Adeptus Bolt Caliber, developed as a hybrid of later pattern Imperial bolter weapon designs and Dark Age of technology Adressite disintegration beam weapons prohibited from General Great Crusade issue. The Adeptus Bolt Caliber was a potent shoulder arm serving as a portable heavy weapon for the Adeptus Custodes. This combination weapon is able to unleash a fusillade of explosive rounds at long range with the potency of the heavy bolters carried by the Adeptus Custodes, or at shorter range fire, a disintegration beam able to rip a target apart at a molecular level. Sound familiar? Causing its victims to cease in existence in a howling flare of energy. Sound familiar?
Okay, now I get what it is. Yeah, I thought anyways, the way you were describing it, I thought they were actually combined this like literally the gauze flare with a bolter. I'm like, that's actually pretty cool. But no, it sounds like it's actually two different. It's like two different barrels.
Combine weapon is what it sounds like.
Well, the orcs would love it. They like multiple barrels on everything. Okay, can I talk about spears? You're done, right?
So, what do you think of the variety of weaponry that you like?
Okay. The spear. I mean, don't get me wrong. When the guy's standing there, and we've got lots of pictures of Custodes when they're standing there with the giant spear. The spear looks pretty cool. It's got the blade on the back end of it. You're like, yeah, that looks awesome. And then you stop and think about it, anyways, how that weapon works, and you're just like, this is dumb on so many levels. I've got a stick to stab people with. Let's put a gun on the very end of it. Huh? Well, okay, there's two problems I have with it. First off, okay, by the way, there is actually something on Terran 42 that is used that is very similar to that. And it's for killing sharks. It's called a boomstick. The aspect is that when the shark gets close, it's got a shotgun shell on the very end of it anyway, so when you hit the shark with it, the shotgun shell goes off. And it boom, and it hits the shark, and the shark's dead. They've got another version of it anyways where it's attached to a spear gun. So you can shoot the spear gun, it goes flying out, and it's got the shotgun shell attached to the back end of it. So when it hits the shark, it goes boom. Kind of thing. The reason why those are the only two examples I can give you of a gun on the end of a stick is because it's in the water. Real ballistic weapons don't work in the water. So this is just, I mean, the thing that no one thinks about anyways here is what happens when they have to reload this thing. Because remember, anyways, the gun is all the way up anyways.
If you look at it, it looks like the trigger's near where the actual bolter is itself, not all the way further down.
Okay, from the pictures I've seen anyways, it looks like the gun mechanism itself anyways is all the way up towards the spear. And the trigger, yes, like you said anyways, the trigger is down anyways where you would normally hold the spear. The problem is that the clip and all the rounds and stuff, that stuff looks like it's up anyways towards the blade. So these spears anyways, for you guys anyways that are going to take a look at the picture anyways, these spears anyways, they're taller than a Custodes, correct?
Depends on the picture.
Not a whole lot taller, but I mean, it's yeah. So then you've got, obviously anyways, the blade's up at the top. Neither of us anyways have a problem with the blade. The blade looks cool. It's not even really anyways a spear. It's actually got like a blade to it. It looks like somebody put a sword on the top end anyways of a stick. Very much like a, what is it, a Nagash? Nagasha? The Japanese?
Naginata?
Yeah. But then it's also anyways attached to that, it's got the barrel. And from what I remember anyways, is to me, anyways, it looks like it's actually the whole gun mechanism is there, and then down, anyways, where you would hold it, like the haft of the spear, there's a trigger. Now, from what you're talking about, anyways, from what you remember, anyways, is more like you can see the end of the barrel up there, and then down towards where you would hold the spear haft. That's where the trigger is, and that's where you would reload it.
No. What I'm saying is the trigger is where the actual bolter is. And so basically you've just attached the bolter to the spear, basically. Instead of it being... You get what I'm saying?
Honestly, I don't think you understand how one of these things works. Oh, okay, hang on half a second. Look, I happen to have one in the closet. Let me go grab it here real quick.
Okay.
And flamer, shooter, black rod, bastard. Oh, okay, here it is. Okay, this is a guardian spear.
It's stupid.
Exactly. So for those of you, anyways, that can't see this, the bolter is up on the top, and like I explained before, anyways, the trigger is down, anyways, where you would carry a haft on the spear. So when they go to fire this thing, if they run out of bullets or bolters, whatever, they literally have to slide it down, anyways, unload it from the top, and then reload it. It is the dumbest mechanism ever. I mean, they talk about how fast it's supposed to be. It's just like, what are you doing?
What's even worse than that is the fact that you're trying to aim
A stick.
that far away from you.
Well, it's the aiming aspect of it also doesn't make any sense. If you're going to pull this up anyways, normally when somebody is aiming down a rifle barrel, they've got it up, they've got the haft up against their shoulder, or the stock up against their shoulder. They look down anyways, the barrel. You can't do that with this weapon.
Because you would be trying to look down about 8 foot of haft. Just to...
Yeah. Well, not only that, the whole weapon doesn't make any sense. The only way that you would fire this thing is like the old school, like 80s action film Arnie Schwarzenegger, where you're sitting there with the machine gun, not aiming it anywhere. It's just at the hip, just going bam, 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 bam. That's the only way you can aim this thing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, quite frankly, anyways, the Castellan axe makes more sense than this thing does. Oh,
Well,
okay.
yeah.
I will say, actually, the spear, to me, anyways, makes sense if it is, anyways, not designed with the bolter, but it's designed with the flamer. That I can see, anyways, a little bit more. Once it's out, it's done. But the concept, anyways, that you're in close combat, you can hit that trigger, and all of a sudden you just get a whole bulge of flame, anyways, about 20, 30 feet, and you can wield that thing. I mean, to me, anyways, that makes sense.
Right.
It's not firing a single bullet or multiple bullets. It's firing a huge gout of flame.
And you don't need to try to aim, really.
Exactly. You're just kind of pointing and squeezing. Yeah. So, to me, anyways, that makes more sense. The Castellan axe that you were talking about, that with a bolter attached to it, none of them make sense. When we talked about the gauze flare, it was the exact opposite of what we were talking about, and it still didn't make any sense. It was shoot first. It was designed more like a gun, but then they put an axe hit on the end of it.
Instead of a bayonet. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just sitting there going, okay, so he's going to take the trigger and kind of swing it. It doesn't make any sense. Neither of these weapons make sense. And they're both incredibly powerful. That's the other problem. So, okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox here. I've been going on long enough anyways about these weapons. But, what do you think of them? I mean, they're kind of they are aesthetically pleasing. Let's put it that way. They are very cool looking.
Yeah, I like the idea that the axe is. I don't know why they consider it elegant, but it is an axe. Can't really swing an axe elegantly in my mind, but
Right.
um,
I would
I
like the
think-
axe if it had the bolter aspect, anyways, in the axe. I would like if it wasn't pointing straight up the shaft.
yeah,
If it was like pointing the same way as the blade was, or the opposite direction, that would make more sense. It would almost be like having like a shotgun attached to it.
right.
So you like come down hard, anyways, with the axe. Well, it still kind of makes sense, anyways, if it's on the spear end. So you can come down, you can hook, anyways, whatever shield you've got, and then pull the trigger. And the shotgun, anyways, aspect of it, kind of like, that
Yeah.
kind of makes sense. It makes a little bit more sense on an axe, I guess, than a spear.
No fear. Yeah, I was just thinking that too. It's like, okay, it's more of you could chop and
It's a
then
secondary
whatever's
attachment.
left, you can just swing up and then fire. I mean, you
It's
could
like,
hack the person in front of you, and then if there's somebody right behind them, on the way up, you can just shoot them at point blank.
Right.
It'd be being able to take out two foes basically in one motion in comparison to.
Right.
I think you go way back up and then swing again.
And you definitely wouldn't be using it anyways as they're charging towards you. It's like, shoot them. It's like, no, you wouldn't be using it like that. You'd be waiting until you got into combat, and then you could use it anyways. Oh, it's almost like a secondary melee weapon that is
Yeah.
attached to the melee weapon that is your primary focus.
I mean, technically you could use it as ranged, but it'd be more of something like, a secondary attack on a recovery. That's what I'm trying to think of. While recovering into a stance.
Well, not only that, but you could also, anyways, attack. You could move the trigger up on it, so that instead of being down on the bottom part of the haft, where you would normally have, the triggers normally, anyways, on the Guardian Spear, you would actually have the trigger farther up, so that if you wanted to actually use it as a ranged weapon, you could slide it so that it's actually across the top of your shoulder, the haft of
Right.
the axe, and then you could actually grip the end part of the axe with one hand, and then you could use your other hand anyways as a trigger. So it'd be almost like a carbine, so like a shorter
Carbine.
stocked weapon.
Okay.
So and you would just like hold anyways. It's almost like a pistol grip anyways on the front side of it anyways. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. So
So, to put it more succinctly, it makes more sense to have it on
the Castellan
an
axe,
axe
absolutely.
than it does on the spear.
So goofy. What?
Still goofy, but still.
It's
it-
one of those kind of things. It's like, it's kind of cool,
Yeah.
Would you use it
It-
very
it-
often?
functional.
Yeah. It's a functional, goofy, kind of cool thing. On the spear, it's just dumb. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. And quite frankly, anyways, the Castellan axe makes more sense to me, anyways, than the spear does.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Like, I do think, anyways, actually the most interesting thing that you talked about, the most interesting sword you talked about, was the one that Valerian gave to this
Mr.
Mr.
Accordion.
Yeah. Just on the concept, anyways, of it's more of its like office is concept to it.
Yeah, what it reminds me of is how like in Terran 42 there'd be noble houses that would have like their crest on a dagger or something.
Right.
They'd be able to go, I'm from this house, thud.
Yeah. It's like like a knife or a dagger. Anyways. It's a
My
little bit
mark of my
longer than that.
family. Yeah.
But yeah, same kind of concept. It's just like my word is my bond. It's like, boom, and you've got that weapon, which is pretty cool. I still think, anyways, this is goofy that they're just like, these are the most dangerous weapons. The disintegration rays, the Aldrethic weapons. Oh yes, the disintegration ray. It's like, you mean what they all have? not like a few of them. All of them have.
Well,
Every single-
there is the ones that wear other people's skins. They don't have them.
Okay, every ranged weapon in the Necron's army, anyways, is some sort of disintegration ray. Oh, yes, the Imperium gave their people the flashlight, aka the las rifle. The Necrons,
They gave them disintegration rays.
So, yeah. Well, okay, we've kind of run out of time. We talked a little bit too long about weapons, but before we leave, we do got to give kind of our final thoughts, anyways, on the Custodes. And for you Custodes fans, it's probably not going to be a good one. Okay, I'm a little bit different than you, Yuxin. I have a certain respect for the Custodes. The thing that really makes the Custodes, in my opinion, fall flat on their faces is that they are designed as a warrior caste as opposed to a soldier's caste.
Right.
And they're stupid spears. But I just gotta mention. But I mean, to me, anyways, that's the big thing. I mean, I know you personally. I know you don't like the whole propaganda thing. It's very much like the way you don't like Sanguinius. It has nothing to do with Sanguinius. It has to do with the fact that everybody's like, "Oh, he's the best. There's nobody better than Sanguinius." Like, well, Horus killed him, so he was better. All kind of thing. Oh, that was because he was infused with the warp and the Chaos Gods. Like, kind of beat him over the head with a mace. So I can hear where you're kind of coming from there, but it's just okay.
Well, it's kind of like the whole, 100 of them can take over an entire star system. It's like,
well, they had to say that because they said 100 Adeptus Custodes could take over a planet. That doesn't make any sense either. But so,
will not hold on to it anyways. You don't have enough people to hold the ground.
I'll put in my 2 cents here in a minute. But what are your thoughts on the Custodes?
I think that they are excellent warriors.
And they are aesthetically pleasing, too. I will say that. Their armor does look pretty cool.
Yeah.
Other than the stupid cone heads that they have. That part, and like you said, anyways, those what are the Dracontii or whatever they're called?
The Dick and the Toy.
Yeah. I mean,
their armor does look awesome. In my
Yeah.
opinion. Definitely in comparison to the other ones.
They look very much like, and ironically, it's kind of the same concept as the Custodes, because they look very much to me, anyways, like someone took the Imperial Fist and said, "Okay, I want that armor in black," like Sigismund did, and you have the Black Templars. The Custodes is very much the same. It looks like, anyways, with that, it's like cool. You guys wear gold. Can I have that in black?
Like, yes. Good.
We're going to go John Wick on this entire galaxy. I mean, that's kind of what they did. But yeah, other than that, anyway, so you said, like you were saying, anyways, that I mean, they're aesthetically pleasing, especially those guys. You think that they're great warriors?
I don't think
What's
that
the downside
they are the best warriors out there, like propaganda puts out there.
Okay, well, here's a question for you. Do you think that they are the best warriors the Imperium has?
I don't know how well they would do against a Exeter. Well, Exeter assassin doesn't really count, because even if they killed it, it would kill them because it would explode.
Think of the Predator concept.
There wouldn't even be any laughter. It'd just be boom. It was like, oh, well.
It makes it more fun if they laugh. I'm
He
sure that they
technically wiped out 4 Custodes, and it was just him. But
so you're thinking, anyways? Well,
there's exceptions.
does that make them? But I don't really think of the Exeter assassins really as being warriors. They're assassins.
No. Yeah. But as warriors, well, most of them aren't trained as warriors; they're trained as soldiers. But
I think honestly, the closest you're going to find, anyways, that are as good warriors as the Custodes are probably the Grey Knights.
yeah,
I mean,
I'd say the Grey Knights have
other
the
than-
edge
other than the
because
Night
of
House,
superior.
we're not counting them, or the Titans. Yes, a Titan could squish an Adeptus Custodes. But
We're the greatest warriors ever. What about him? Looked up 100 stories. He might be able to beat me. That is
For that guy who's about half the height of that one. Yeah, his gun I could probably fit inside one of the barrels of his gun. Yeah, he could probably beat me.
Then again, anyways, the Custodes' nature, it's okay. One of my favorite books is done by Terry Goodkind. His series, it's called Sword of Truth series, and there are these guys that are the bodyguard of this particular emperor, very much like Custodes. And the emperor is playing it on the down low. He is. He's acting like a normal peasant. And they're trying to find him because he disappeared. And he runs into this battalion of like the Winged Hussars. Okay, so he like ran into a bunch of Space Marines. And actually is like he ran into a bunch of Black Templars because they're also like these holy knights.
Okay.
And they're like, make way for the holy knights of the order. And he goes, the holy knights of the keeper. And he goes, oh, yep, better be off to do that before anybody else gets in your way, sir. And he, very cheeky. And the guy stops the whole row and he turns and looks at him. And he goes, I think we should teach you some manners. And all of a sudden, these two giant bodyguard dudes get up and they're on one side of the emperor and one on the other side of the emperor, and they go, I don't think you want to be doing that. You best move along. And the guy who's in charge is like, I thought we were on the same side. And he's like, surely, anyways, you should know, anyways, this is definitely not a fair fight. And there's like 100 of these knights behind him. And Dahara, this is his name, anyways, the Dahara bodyguard, anyways, he looks at him and he looks at all of his buds and he goes, all of these 100 knights, and he kind of looks at it and goes, very well, Mike. And he just takes a step back. The other guard takes a step forward. He goes, I'll keep myself out of this. Go for it, Mike. And Mike just casually, anyways, just rests his hands, anyways, on a dagger and a sword, just ready. Yeah. And the knights, anyways, this is how good they are. The knights, anyways, were just kind of like, hey, fine. They just leave. That's, to me, anyways, the Custodes. Now, could those two guys beat those 100 knights? Probably not. But it's that aspect, anyways, of my two guys versus your 100 guys. You might be able to beat us. You might not.
Yeah.
And more importantly, anyways, even if you do beat us, there ain't going to be a whole lot of you left.
Right.
To me, anyways, that's kind of the Custodes. They're not... I mean, do I think that they're the greatest fighting force of the Imperium? No. They are a hell of a bodyguard, though.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just the fact that, anyways, we were talking about this before we started, anyways, Gilliman having, like, a whole retinue of them. I mean, whole worlds would burn if he wanted to just take them with him. That's my kind of aspect, is that they
won't be allowed to also.
Okay. That's all the positives that I have, anyways, for the Custodes. The downsides are, like I said, anyways, they're warriors, they're not soldiers. The other aspect is quite frankly, they answer to no one other than the Emperor. I have a problem with that. I mean, that gives your people, anyways, a huge ego aspect. And like we talked about,
they already think that humans are beneath them.
Like we talked about, dirt or stock, one or the other. So
kind of like that person that we did a reading of. What's his name? The guy
Diocletian. Yeah. It's just like, I'm done talking with you, and then he just moves on. You're just like, dude, that's not a way to end a conversation. But okay.
I'm done. You go away.
Well, it wasn't even I have spoken. It's just like, I'm done talking with you. He literally says that. So, I mean, it's just, the problem I have with them is that they're put so high up on a pedestal that they truly disdain humanity. That's the problem I have. That's the other problem I have. So it's hard to, root for them. I mean, there are like examples that we've given anyways that you can kind of root for him, and you kind of like, okay, yeah, there you
Like
go.
Valerian, you kind of like Valerian because
Constantine, both of them. He's like, that's it, buddy. Regain your humanity. Never does. But he tried.
But yet a mile away.
So yes. I just it's just that aspect of the problem I'm sorry for you Custodes fans, but the problem I have with them is that they're so far out of human, and but they still work with humans, and they're so disdainful of humanity. That is one of the things, anyways, that I just can't get my head around. That, and they're warriors instead of soldiers. It's just, like I said, it makes them great bodyguards, which is what they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's the aspect of turning them into an army that's going to go out and slay thousands. It's just, to me, you're just going to run into a huge amount of problems. I mean,
right.
They'll work okay. They'll work okay anyways with, like, for instance, the orcs. But if you run into a sizable, like, Eldari or Harlequin force, I mean, they're just going to pick them apart.
Yeah.
So,
because, I mean, let's just look at the War of the Beast. It took hundreds of them to take down, what was it, like 6 Harlequins?
Yeah, but it didn't take long.
Came across 100 of them. Well, still, the fact that 100 of them were used to take down 6.
So there were, if I recall right, there were 7 Harlequins, and they snuck in. They kind of killed their way all the way up until they got to the companions, and then they ran into the companions, and the companions just kind of. It was very much like that Terran 42 movie, The Avengers, where the Hulk grabs Loki and just starts smashing him into the ground. That's kind of what happened. I understand, they did a pretty good job getting there, but once they got there, it's just like, oh, you've run into the Custodes. Oh no. Hey, but I just don't know if I can really back them. Like Xenos, different Xenos warriors and species, I can kind of understand because they think differently. Like the orcs, they think so differently from humanity. Anyways, and they're funny. Same with the Votan, same with the Eldari, the Drukhari. It's almost like the Custodes are like a Xenos race that they have. That's part of the Imperium of Man. And they hate mankind for it. I mean, that's kind of the way that I've kind of looked at them. But you got any last notes, anyways, before we have to take off?
No.
All right. Well,
just apologize to all the Custode fans out there that we really don't care too much about them.
Yeah.
Particular individuals we like. As a whole, not so much. Let's just put it that way.
That's a good way of putting it. And on that note, we are out of time for today. Now, join us next week as we get into our member Collins concept, and it's going to be Warhammer 40K for idiots. It's a guide, idiot's guide to Warhammer 40K. I think that's what we're going to call it. Okay. And we're going to be starting with the timeline of 40K. So we're going to go all the way back before even the War in Heaven. We're going to go all the way back before the old ones. It's going to be all the way back anyways with, dare I say, Umkulu.
I am not pleased that you used his name. Who shall not be named.
We got to start somewhere. Anyways.
But for those of you who enjoyed our little show, could you please be so kind as to push that subscribe, like, or follow button? If you wish to help us expand our work on 40K lore, by all means, support us by joining our membership program on our YouTube channel, Tales of Ashraka. Right now we have 4, but we could use more.
Hey, I think that rhymes.
Oh, and don't forget to purchase The Yorin Heist. Sold wherever ebooks are sold, or paperbacks for that matter.
Yes. But most importantly, have a great day.
And until next time, this is Ekthar,
And Yuxin.
signing off.